Hi, my name is Paul Quinn. I work for Clarion Housing. We're a large housing association. I'm going to sort of quickly take you through a project that I work on with Clarion, and in it what we're trying to do is to be fair by the existing residents, to build some beautiful homes, and at the same time maybe be financially astute, maybe even make a little bit of money on the side. So we'll talk through how that's going to work. But we're going to begin with probably the most dangerous bus in Britain. This is the number 200, and this takes you from Wimbledon Town Centre. So if you get on this bus in Wimbledon Town Centre and get off in Mitcham Town Centre, which is a journey of 3 miles in Mitcham where I work, then you lose 10 years of your life expectancy. Now this is a journey of 3 miles, and really very starkly confirms what inequality plays out like in even in London these days. 10 years off your life. And that's what sort of prompted me then to use this term social justice in the title of my presentation. And of course then immediately regretted it because it's quite a tricky term. But I'll talk you through how we think we're trying to apply those principles through the project in its delivery. If I can get this to work. Possibly. Turn around. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is Merton in London. I didn't know where it was either before I went there. It's quite a sizable place. It's the size of Sheffield, or size of Coventry or Leicester or Derby. Quite a sizable location. And these are the 3 estates that we're focusing on. I'm going to talk about in a moment or two. This is Eastfields, which is in Mitcham. A very unusual design. We have 4 estates of this style in Merton. This is Ravensbury, which looks great from this angle. It's his best photograph from 200 feet, but you'll see it a bit closer in a moment or two. And this is High Path. This is just on the edge of Mitcham and South Wimbledon, really dominated by those 3 tower blocks. Now the background in which we're working in London here is one where there's a huge political debate around regeneration per se. And the words gentrification and social exclusion just become interchangeable with regeneration, and we see these sorts of headlines all the time. So understandably, in many ways, people are very suspicious of what we're trying to do. If you Google regeneration in London, you will see estates that have a long history of challenge from local residents or challenge from groups outside those neighbourhoods. And so it's against that sort of background that we're working. Now, I'm sure this isn't the first time Gehl's been mentioned this week here, but these are the sort of principles that we're trying to work to here, really focusing on people first, and then it's about creation of spaces, and then it's about the buildings. It's never the other way around. I have a big poster of a film about Gehl in my living room at home, which my wife absolutely loves and won't let me move, but Gehl is my great hero, and these are the principles that we're trying to apply here. These are the 3 estates that we're working on, and you'll get a sense of how this works as a business model as we go through it. So it's 3 estates, but it's a single business plan. So effectively the larger estate, the High Path estate, is cross-subsidising the other 2. It makes a reasonable return, the other 2 lose every penny of it. Now the principle we apply in Clarion is we look at our existing stock, and if it comes to me to be reviewed, it's already recognised as somewhere that's failing, and what are we going to do with it? So we run a test against it, and we call a case for regen, and understand how much it's going to cost to keep those buildings on the go. In the case of these 3 estates, they run at minus £140 million. That's what it's going to cost us to keep them in reasonable condition, if you could maintain them in reasonable condition. Eastfields, for example, the first estate, has a very limited life. You'll see a few more slides of that in a moment or two. So my starting point is minus 140 million. I always think I'm doing good if I do better than that. My chief financial officer's got a different idea of what we need to be turning out in the back of these. There's no private sector partner. We're raising all the money ourselves. We're a very large housing group, so we're able to do that. And we're looking to demolish 2 estates entirely, partially refurb one of them. And we have the OPA and the Section 106 in place. That's taken us 5.5 years to get this far. So there's 1,260 homes at the minute. We're going to build out probably something closer to 3,000 now, and all that goes with that. We're underway now on 2 of those estates. Again, we are at heart, we are a social landlord, so the driver for us is the replacement of our existing stock. So that means every affordable home gets replaced. That's 740 altogether, all social rented. And actually, that's a fairly significant uplift on the current proportion of social housing there on these sites. That gives us about 31% overall within the new master plan, and about another 10% of the homes that we'll build out are for existing resident homeowners. Now, they're the people who very often get the sharp end of the stick in regeneration in London. They get very poor values for the purchase of their home, and that's where we have developed the residence offer, which is the key to our project working. Now, other housing associations have done this. Swan have a very similar approach, but I think the difference here is the scale we are doing it at. I have 499 homes to buy back at a cost of over £300 million to be demolished and rebuilt. And that's the crazy economics of regeneration in London. Now, in terms of sort of the social justice-based approach, this means that what we're asking people to do is to sort of come along with us in this very complicated, quite long journey. But the principles are, there's no decant, you move directly into your new home. No one goes back into overcrowded accommodation. If you're a Clarion tenant, you keep all the rights you have now. There's no rent increase. If we do regen or not, it's just the same. But the last bit of this, the replacement home offer, is the bit that's unusual. Because generally speaking, leaseholders, freeholders get offered shared ownership or shared equity. And in this case, we are offering people a full new 125-year lease or a new freehold. And that's the key that makes the project work. 40% of the homes I have to demolish, we don't own. So I have to bring those people with me. And the local authority are not our partners in this. This is entirely down to Clarion to try and deliver it. I will only be able to deliver it if I bring those people with me. And this offer is proven to be the key to that. And this is the model that we use now in all our regeneration projects. And these are what these estates look like currently. This is the Ravensbury estate. These are orlet homes built just after the war. Concrete, falling apart, very, very cold. They all have to go. This is High Path. Most of people living in High Path live in these 3 tower blocks, and there's a series of other not terribly good built form across here. But the useful thing about High Path is it's very spread out. These homes here we're having to buy back £600,000 each, those cost in London. This is the Eastfields estate, which is one of the worst estates I've ever worked on. I've worked on a lot of estates over the years, full of asbestos, flat roofs that leak all directions, 33 of these little alleyways through into the green space beyond. Really nothing to save here other than the trees. We did a lot of consultation. I love this picture. This is my colleague Spiros from PRP Architects getting a very hard time at a coffee morning. They don't believe a word of it, but he's a top architect. And we've done lots of this just to try and show people that what we're proposing is not going to negatively impact them in the long term. And this is what we're going to build. I was at planning committee 10 o'clock last night getting this scheme approved, and everything that you're looking in that photograph, and that CGI rather, is social rented or it's a replacement home. This is local people being housed first, so all the early homes are for local residents. Now that means we have to carry a huge debt because all I'm doing at the minute is buying back homes, building stuff, and there's no income in from it. But we're a large housing association, we can afford it. And that's the principle on which we're bringing it forward. This is how High Path will look. So that's the one with the 3 tower blocks. We're trebling the density here. This is what pays for the other 2. The other 2 lose every penny of that. We're just about at break even. That'll do for me. If you remember, we're losing 140 million if we try and keep them going. But this is what we're going to be building out. A whole range of different styles. I particularly like this one. This is Ravensbury. It doesn't look like London, but actually you're about 10 minutes walk from the Northern Line here at this point. So it's possible to build out nice quality homes and still do right by the people who live there and still keep your chief financial officer happy. This is Eastfields. Only thing that's staying is the trees, some cracking trees in it. But people were happy to see everything else go. Already? Okay, nearly there. And even down to things like all the entrances are all designed 10-year blinds. Very important. People feel valued, whether they're a social rented tenant or whether they're buying a property. And some of these properties in High Path will cost £850,000, £900,000 on the market, and that's what cross subsidises. And of course, it's about more than housing. We're spending £1 billion here, so we need to squeeze every last possible social and economic benefit out of it, and to build out all the retail and employment space that comes with that. And we're using High Path as the basis for our circular economy strategy. We developed this in the back of the Merton project. This underpins all our procurement, all our design. Real challenge for the architects to be designing buildings, thinking about how they're going to be deconstructed in 40 years' time. And final slide then, is this social justice in play? We think there's elements of it here. There's a long way to go, but these are the 3 principles we try and deliver in our regeneration project. Critically, keeping the existing community together and in situ. That's the top priority. Improving neighbourhoods by understanding what works well in them now and building on those. And finally then, hopefully building some communities, some public spaces, some buildings that will last for generations to come and have a real design quality at the heart of them. Thank you.